Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tiju Panda back in action, talking about something else today. My something else, yet again, more drama. Yeah, I actually meant to cover this the other night, but I decided to talk about Boogie, and honestly, considering the source material here, I actually would prefer to talk about Boogie 2988. But, this happened to be something that happened fairly recently, and it was something I meant to do the other night, but, life got in the way, and I decided to take a little break during my weekend, and now, at the very end of the week, I decided to talk about it now. So, have you ever heard of a wonderful young man, or I should say, a wonderful individual by the name of Darksydephil? He was young once upon a time when he got started with this whole, video gaming thing, but Darksydephil is surprisingly somebody I hadn't learned about until years later, well into the seed of his controversy, because it was through a documentary online by the name of Down the Rabbit Hole that covered Darksydephil and his internet history year to date. And it was interesting. It was certainly a compelling story, but Darksydephil as an individual, he basically became well known for being a early gamer. He won a championship, Mortal Kombat. No, it was Street Fighter 2. It was a Street Fighter 2 championship game. He won second place, I believe. No, wait. I think he won fourth place actually. But he won, he was the only North American player that won because the other three people were, from Japan. But he basically titled himself the best, fighting game, player in North America. And honestly, that sort of, proclamation has gotten him a lot of pushback from the gaming community because it's one, a lot of people didn't like that tournament for the simple fact that it was an obscure version of Street Fighter. I keep wanting to say Mortal Kombat for some reason. Street Fighter. And, a lot of people didn't take it seriously, and people were actually joining the tournament just to, gatekeep lesser players, out from, potentially winning. But Darksydephil won, and that sort of secured his ego, because from there he had this very egotistical way of looking at things, which created a lot of controversies over the course of many years that he happened to be involved in live streaming his video gaming footage, and he developed quite an antagonistic relationship with his fans, which, as a content creator, you never really want to do, unless maybe, you're just being a heckler or something like that, and that's something that you're known for. But in Darksydephil's case, he just seems like a toxic, unpleasant individual. And it's remarkable to me that he gained such fanfare over the years, presumably from a combination of him being a character and, his way of, just reacting to video games that he would happen to play over the years. So Darksydephil is unique insofar as having established himself as, a content creator fairly early before people really had the technical capabilities to do so. He had an HD camera that he would actually focus on his TV screen to record the video game footage. He would react to it in real time. He would put it on YouTube or any other platform that was available. He developed a particular partnership with Machinima in the early days before Machinima became defunct. And I say that because that's unique, because he was actually actively earning revenue through his partnership program with them. And over the years, he developed various other partnerships with other sites like Blip TV, AdSense, but unfortunately for Darksydephil, or DPS if you prefer, Machinima renegotiated its contract with him before cutting ties with him entirely. I believe he was caught on camera masturbating before a stream, which, granted, you didn't actually see anything, you just heard him going, and yeah, not exactly good. Why would you fucking, masturbate before a stream, honestly? I guess you're trying to get yourself pumped up for the action, but, I can think of better ways of doing that. Yeah, I'd be as far away from a fucking camera as I could possibly be before I started masturbating, But that's just me. Maybe Darksydephil was just very comfortable with his current surroundings at the time, and, he didn't want to get up, so he decided to just pump and dump right there. Yeah. So, why am I talking about him today? Because, honestly, the history at Darksydephil happens to be steeped in controversy. He has had a couple of girlfriends, one of which did nothing to really add to his popularity. she had a even more antagonistic relationship with DarkSidePhil's fans, and DarkSidePhil would be her white knight and would actually bring down on his fan base rather than, maybe remind her, hey, listen, these are my fans. I know that you hold priority over them to me, but at the same time, I have an obligation to them to provide content and good relations with my supporters. And, she flied in the face of that. Broke up with her. He started a new relationship, a mysterious woman named Kat. I'm not sure if that relationship's still going strong, but DarkSidePhil, honestly, he always seemed to have been in a precariously financial situation. Like, was always in a precarious financial situation. And what's ironic to me is that, from what I know of his past history, he actually got a degree in finance. So it's like, you would think that he would be very good at sort of plotting out his next moves, But from what I remember, he moved out of an apartment to buy a house out in Seattle, Washington, I believe. It's somewhere in Washington State. Maybe it's off-grid, who knows, but all in all, like, he certainly presents himself as a bit of a character. He's gotten a lot better over the years, at least physically. He lost a lot of weight. He's getting up there in age, but, like Boogie, he has lost a lot of weight and he looks okay. He's not particularly good looking, I don't think, but he's not, like, horribly looking. It's just, like, he doesn't look particularly, he's not like model material or anything like that. He's not like a good looker like PewDiePie or like Aaron and Danny from like Game Grumps, or even the Angry Video Game Nerd. Like, they look fairly presentable, like good, consistent. They haven't changed radically over the years. Anyway, whatever. DarkSidePhil just always seemed like he was kind of a narcissist, egotistical, and loud, kind of rough around the edges. If you hear his commentary in video game, which I have, like, I don't know. It's not something that I would particularly like listen to for any great length of time, but maybe, some people see the appeal in cringeworthy material. What I'm trying to say here is it's not for me, but if you like that sort of thing, hey, by all means, go ahead and watch it to your heart's content. But yeah, what other things sort of happened over the years? Because he was in a financially precarious situation, he had taken to opening up a Patreon. He would open tiers. The problem is he would promise his fans a lot of things. Like, I remember there being mentioning of like certain collaboration projects that he was going to get together with his friends to work on that was going to be the benefit of the viewership or the people that were buying into certain tiers on Patreon. And he never delivered on his promise, and he would blame his fans for it later on when they kept badgering him about it. So yeah, certainly a controversial individual. And his video gaming, like, playing was so bad that people would actually record they would take recordings of his particular, videos they would post to YouTube and basically use them in their own videos and say, this is how you don't play this game. And, obviously DarkSidePhil did not like that very much and would try to actively report or ban said individuals from, like whatever site that they post them to, whether it be YouTube or other places. Yeah. But anyway, the recurrent theme with DarkSidePhil is that because of his controversial nature, like, he made anti-Semitic jokes while he was playing Dead Space. That much I remember. Because he was actively, like, referencing that the xenomorphs that were attacking, like, Isaac Clarke were Jews, and that he was making anti-Semitic remarks towards them, which isn't a very good thing to do, especially if you're a content creator that's trying to stay out of controversy. But, I guess he wants to be an edgelord. Okay, fine. If you're going to be an edgelord, you're going to suffer the consequences. And I'm not saying that to be, like, vengeful and vindictive. I'm saying that as just somebody that is aware of how things are in, the overall span of the internet. So yeah, he's certainly done a lot for the internet. He's provided a lot of hilarity and entertainment value for a good many years. However, I noticed, like, even on the side, like, for instance, there was a Christian video where Christian was begging for money to pay for his mortgage and bills, and, like, somebody in the comments was just like, begs more than DarkSidePhil. So, he'd already developed a reputation of begging his fans for money, or begging anybody that happened to be viewership of his channel for money. Why is this significant? Well, like when he had an AdSense, he would actually guide his fans on how to like help him out, which you're not supposed to do based on the terms of the agreement. The terms of the agreement specify that you're not supposed to influence your fans to purposely like go to ads, that the fans are supposed to click on ads that they find interesting based on their own volition, without any external suggestions from, the person that is providing the content that the ad appears on. And that's why his AdSense got shut down. I believe his, Machinima cut his contract years ago, but it had been renegotiated a couple times. Blip TV, I believe he got kicked off of that. So yeah, he recently, like, this is the core bread and butter of this particular video that I'm talking about here. So more recently, Twitch TV, like, basically kicked him off the partnership program, and what's interesting is that instead of giving him a upfront reason for doing so, they basically just told him, hey, you need to talk to our legal department about this, and legal department has not got back to DarkSidePhil as far as I'm aware. And this created a lot of a stir online. Like, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon of making videos about DarkSidePhil and basically being like, either laughing at him or, just talking about the subject matter like I'm talking about it. Or, they basically treated him like he was the butt of the internet jokes at that point in time. And whether or not he deserves this, that's really up for you to decide. I'm just going to say right now that he doesn't do a whole lot to help his case, He doesn't do a whole lot to endear himself to his fans. He doesn't do a lot to encourage people to be sympathetic towards him. He just seems like he's got a very egotistical way of going about things and, like, very reactionary. Like, he puts the blame everywhere else but himself. And he's a good example, honestly, about why you shouldn't aspire to be a, like, famous YouTuber unless you can really pull it off. Here's the thing. I do this as a hobby. I really enjoy making content. I really enjoy, commenting on things. I like, basically trying my hand at making videos and films like that. The problem is I don't really like the idea of making this as a full-time job. I don't think I have the capabilities right now to do that. Maybe if I had a lot more time and I didn't have a full-time job to go to, maybe I could really study, like, the capabilities of various programs out there and really put my mind to, like, the best video editing, like, techniques and transitions and things like that to make my videos a lot more eye-catching and, appealing for the general viewer. But at the moment, like, I have a full-time job that I want to keep, and I have a social life that I'm trying to keep alive, what little I can actually turn to. Because of the COVID-19 thing, I can't just walk out to the local bar or pub willy-nilly and hang out with people like I used to be able to. A lot of people just stay indoors, they become homebodies, and I'm no exception. I happen to spend an inordinate amount of time at home because, I have projects to work on, I have people to see, things to do, and, not a whole lot of space to do it in. Either way, so, like, say hypothetically you became a famous YouTuber or a Twitch streamer or things like that, and you treat it as a full-time job. You have thousands of dollars rolling in every month, like, that you would have gotten from, like, a full-time job, but you are doing it through the creation of content or for video gaming and having a magnanimous, sparkling personality that endears yourself to your fan base, and people follow you. Well, what happens when you get to be, like, 45 to 50? What happens when you get older? Because eventually your popularity is going to fade. People like young people, I hate to say, because people are superficial like that, but, some people can pull it off even when they get older. People will stick by you out of a sense of nostalgia, but you've spent all this time, like, dedicating yourself to your craft. That might give you an edge in transitioning into another industry, like the advertising or entertainment industry. However, generally speaking, some people are screwed. They don't have a plan B. They don't have a means by which they can support themselves, like, other than what they've been doing for the past, 10 or so years. And DarkSidePhil appears to be sort of in that situation. I'm not actually familiar with how many people are actually supporting him and why, other than maybe for the lulz. But I say all this because, he's a perfect example right now. He put himself out there. He was in a position because he was smart enough to acquire very high quality equipment that most people did not have access to at the time when he got started, like an HD camera and later a capture card, which, weren't really in wide use due to the prohibitive cost. But he was smart enough to make the investment then. It worked out for him for, pretty good long time. The problem is he should have constantly been looking forward into the future and constantly trying to manipulate the circumstances surrounding him, and constantly thinking of the next latest and greatest thing that he could have done. That's just what I see in his past history. Instead, it's been a lot of controversy, him not really learning from the controversies and just sort of doing things as he's been doing, and taking a very gruff, confrontational outlook on a lot of things. That's just what I see out of him. And, again, some people value, people that don't, show their true emotions or feelings and can just fly in the face of all that. But at the same time, it's not done a whole lot to endear himself to some of his fan base. I don't even know what his fan base comprises of. I know that a lot of people are familiar with him because I guess he was such a large, a large figure in the gaming community once upon a time. But these days, he seems more relegated to the butt of jokes. He doesn't seem like he's taken seriously. And this most recent spat where he lost his partnership with Twitch, that caused a reactionary sort of response by him, where he was immediately pleading and begging with people to support him because he had mortgages to pay, he had bills to pay. I'm not sure if he was in debt. I know that he took on thousands upon thousands of dollars in credit card debt to attend a tournament because he was convinced that if he was successful there, then he would be in a better position to further his channel and his presence online. And I think it worked out for him at the time, but that was years ago. Now's now. And unless you're doing things that keep you relevant or keep you, noticed by the general public, you're going to fall into obscurity. And I hadn't learned about him until maybe a couple years ago. It completely escaped me. I had no idea who DarkSidePhil was until I watched that Down the Rabbit Hole documentary, basically detailing his life. And it's been a while since I watched that, so forgive me if my memory is a little spotchy here, but certain things I'm just familiar with about him. But yeah, he made some videos talking about his recent lack of partnership with Twitch, and that he really needed to pay his mortgage and things like that because he bought a house. And because this is during the pandemic, I'm wondering if he can get an extension on having to pay that back. But maybe not. Let's hope so. Because as much as I find DarkSidePhil to be somewhat a cringy individual, I don't want to see anybody go homeless because of bullshit that just kind of happens. Twitch really should have just came out and said, hey, listen, you said some controversial things that went against our terms of service, and if you can patch that up with our legal department, then we will invite you back into the partnership program. Until then, you are done with us. And they should have at least said something more tangible than, hey, talk to our legal department. We're not going to talk to you, tee-hee. He's got a Patreon, so, if you really want to, you can support him on Patreon. Me personally, his content is not for me. I like, different people that play video games. Commentary can be very great, Game Grumps was a pretty good thing for a while. I think they've kind of slipped in recent years, but for the most part, out of a sense of nostalgia, I can appreciate their light-colored humor and, just crazy antics between Egoraptor and Danny. But nothing will ever replace JonTron for me. I think Egoraptor and JonTron were the greatest combination since peanut butter and chocolate. But that's just me. Anyway, I think I've talked about DSP quite a bit. But I'll go ahead and say, DarkSidePhil, he created a lot of channels to showcase his content, many of which are now defunct, but DSP Gaming, I think, is at the forefront of his creations, so he's still available on YouTube. He was playing on Twitch for a while. I'm not sure if he's still doing that ever since he got cut off from Twitch, the partnership program. But yeah, DSP Gaming. I I feel like I could be a better video game player than him, although I need to work on my commentary in like real time. It's kind of hard, you know, because like I guess like if you know the game, that's one thing, but if you go in blind, it's a lot easier to generate like reactions and commentary on the fly than if you already know the game from the ins and outs of it. So you pretty much have to constantly keep playing new video games, like absolutely new. You've never touched it, you don't know anything about it, but I'm a little bit picky when it comes to video games. And I also don't have the time to commit like hours upon hours playing back to back anymore. I wish I did, but at the same time, you know, time is a valuable commodity that is. It just feels like it's in such short supply these days, ironically. In spite of the fact that COVID-19 has relegated me into the household, you know, it just feels like it's always in short supply. I have people that I want to see, maintain contact with. I have projects I want to work on and, you know, develop. I have things I want to learn. And also a full-time job, which I am very thankful that I still have, in spite of everything that's happened in my personal life, in the world at large, and, you know, things I have encountered along the way. Anyway, so yeah, do you want to be an aspiring Twitch streamer? I'm just curious because that seems to be the latest and greatest trend among young people these days. A lot of people I know are trying to make it on Twitch. They try new and novel ideas on how to get themselves noticed, and for some of them it works out fairly well. For others, it seems like they're a little bit lacking, but that's just my like view on things. Me personally, I have 136 subscribers on Twitch, and I wish I could do things that would get me a little bit more notice, but I am satisfied with what I got right now. My focus is on YouTube and various other video platforms like of the like. But yeah, DarkSidePhil, he's a good example of somebody that I don't really take seriously either. Like, based on how cringy and confrontational and loud and obnoxious he can be. He doesn't even say things that are particularly funny to me. Some of his reactions are hilarious, but like other times it's just like, dude, why would you even say that? Like, honestly, come on, man. You're better than this. You are at least better than this. Don't say that. Alright, well anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Till next time, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.